remember years and years and years ago, we used to go to a certain restaurant a lot. And there was always this one server. Yep. And he was always in a bad mood. And we were like, every time we saw him, we kind of just chuckled to ourselves, like, what in the world? Like, every day is a bad day for you? Like, every time we went, he just wasn't in a good mood. So finally, one day, he was being rude. And you said to him, hey, brother, you all right today? He kind of stopped and looked at you. He was like, kind of, and I don't remember what you said to him, but you said something so kind to him. And we left. And the next time we went back, we saw him and he was smiling. And every time after that, he was like a totally different person. Wow. And it was almost like he just needed somebody to call him out. Yeah. And he didn't ever tell us, like the young lady did, what was really happening with him. Right. But it was almost a shift in him. And it was do you remember that?
I don't.
It was a young guy. Okay. And we went back several times after that. And I don't know if he just remembered us. Right. It was just nice to us because we said something, or if we just kind of changed him. But it's just interesting, like you said, sometimes you never know what someone's going through.
If you're a go-getter, faith-driven and family-focused and need to break through to your next level, this is the podcast for you. Your self-talk can reshape every area of your life. It's time to dream and think big. Welcome to the Self-Talk Experience with Darnell and Tracy Self. It's time to elevate, baby. Let's get into the show.
Hey, welcome everybody to another episode of the Self-Talk Experience. I'm Darnell Self. This is my host, Tracy Self.
Hi.
Also known as Bougie Beans on Instagram. Miss Coffee Review. We've been to some amazing coffee shops lately.
Yes, we have. We've been to a lot of them, and I'm going to start posting them.
Yeah, so check out the Bougie Beans, the real Bougie Beans.
The real Bougie Beans.
On Instagram. And as we've been traveling, we like to go to boutique coffee shops. Mm-hmm. Typically, T-Self, if you didn't know, is only interested in liquids that are water, wine, and coffee.
Yep. I'm either tipsy, hydrated, or jittery.
Hey, well, welcome to another episode of the Self-Talk. It must be Thursday, and we appreciate our audience. Thank you guys for all the likes, shares, comments, and reviews. So we appreciate that. Keep it up, and hopefully we are adding value to your life and your future. The businesses that I know many of you all run are starting. So let's talk about today in this episode of Self-Talk.
Yes.
Being careful of what you say to yourself in response to what you think is going on in someone else's life, but may not be going on.
What do you mean by that? Like, how do you know what's going on in their life?
I know it's natural to assume. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
So we were in Mexico and we're at the airport and we stopped by Johnny Rockets to get some fries.
Well, you stopped by Johnny Rockets to get fries. I wasn't getting fries that day. I like fries, but I wasn't getting fries.
Okay, thanks. Yes, I was getting fries.
You were.
And so the cashier is coming across like she doesn't want to be at work. And she's like almost mean. You know how folks are trying to be nice, but they really are coming across as mean? Mm-hmm. And so she's very direct. She's not like, hi, how can I help you? It's just like, I don't want to be here. Yeah, is that it? Okay. So I say something to you about, whoa, she's not happy to be here, or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so she happens to look down and she sees a wristband I have on and it says, it's up to me in 2023. Mm-hmm. And so she says, oh, you like to inspire people. And I said, yeah, actually, that's what I do for a living, is I help inspire people. And she's like, wow, I really need some inspiration right now. My mom passed 2 months ago. Yep. And that's what I mean by assuming. Like, I'm like, she don't want to be here. But she was dealing with something I didn't know she was dealing with. Mm-hmm. And it's so easy to assume that, one, it may be about you. So your self-talk is like, I mean, what did I do? I didn't do anything to her. Or what's wrong with her? Mm-hmm. She shouldn't be at work today. But maybe that's how she's dealing with it, by being at work.
Right.
And
that's
so
true.
right? And so I took my wristband off and gave it to her. And she's like, no way. And I was like, yeah, you can have it.
Mm-hmm.
And she smiled. And from that point on, she was like, all right, have a nice day.
Right.
Have a safe flight. It was like completely different. But again, maybe she just needed someone to say something positive in that moment.
Right. That's interesting. So that was like a singular negative interaction, right? Encounter just with one person at one time.
Yep.
So in dealing with that, you dealt with her from where you were.
Mm-hmm.
So what if she was that way and you were having a bad day too? So sometimes it can get worse.
Yeah.
Because that person is already in a bad mood, you're in a bad mood, and you're like, well, why are you being rude to me? And it could get bad.
Yep.
So it's interesting, like you're saying, sometimes even wherever you are, if someone is acting like that to you, you have to watch your response.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard because if you're not in a good place, you're not thinking about it.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But we talk about that all the time, like, oh, we have to give people grace. But if you're not in a place where you can give grace, and that person's not in a place where they can give grace, it's a clash.
Yeah,
right?
It's interesting.
Because that interaction with her could have gone totally different.
Yep. And it has.
Because you could have said, I have a wristband.
Right.
Like you could, but because you might have been over it.
Right.
Right. So it's interesting.
This is why self-talk is so critical. And I hope that we are encouraging our audience to say better things to themselves so that when other people either act a certain way or say something, they have developed such a positive self-talk force shield that it does not impact them the same way it would if they were saying negative things about, like, I can't believe everybody is so mean. The world is horrible. I mean, if you're saying all these negative things about everybody else and about yourself, no one likes me, I'm in such a horrible place, or, hey, man, I'm coming out of this place. I'm so excited about what God is preparing for me for him to see that I'm strong enough to deal with this. Like, it shifts how you feel about things, even when you communicate with other people, because you feel like, man, you almost feel when you have enough positive self-talk that you can loan some of that to somebody else.
Right. That's true. And oftentimes you have to deal with it even from a distance, like road rage. Sometimes you're driving and then you do something and you're like, oh, I didn't mean to do it. I'm sorry. And the person just goes off, they're honking and say bad things. And it's like, what is wrong with them?
Right.
But again, we don't know what they're dealing with.
Right.
And it could be the same thing I talked about before. They can honk at me because I say, who are you honking at?
Right.
Because I'm having a bad day too. I didn't mean to do that.
Right.
So it's just,
I know.
It could elevate in so many different ways.
But let's talk about that for a second, because one, I've watched you mentor the kids in road rage, right? In what situations like that.
It's just scary.
Yeah, it is, because listen, incarceration is not an option, right? So if you did beat up the person and now there's an assault charge, that's not an option. If they did have a gun and you're hurt, that shouldn't be an option.
Right.
Over someone who blew the horn. So it's ego that gets involved. And you've watched me go through this transformation, because I am guilty of people who are rude and nasty and mean and disrespectful, and me not receiving that well.
Right.
And I'm like, what's wrong with you? And you're like, and so you've watched me go through a place to say, man, I hope they have a better day.
Right. They
must be really dealing with something horrible in life. So that self-talk has really helped me out, quite frankly, be very vulnerable and transparent. You know what I mean? Because you really have to practice this over and over and over again. We're not saying, hey, do this today and tomorrow it all changes. It's just like with the success we've been blessed to have. We didn't do one thing one day and then the next day it was like the lottery.
Right.
It was practicing it over and over and over and creating the right activities over and over and over, which created proper habits over and over and over, which led to success. And the same thing happens with failure, by the way. Poor habits or poor activity over and over and over lead to poor habits. And those poor habits lead to failure.
Yes. You made me think about something. Do you remember years and years and years ago, we used to go to a certain restaurant a lot. And there was always this one server.
Yep.
And he was always in a bad mood. And we were like, every time we saw him, we kind of just chuckled to ourselves, like, what in the world? Like, every day is a bad day for you? Like, every time we went, he just wasn't in a good mood. So finally, one day, he was being rude. And you said to him, you said, hey, brother, you all right today? He kind of stopped and looked at you. He was like, kind of, and I don't remember what you said to him, but you said something so kind to him. And we left. And the next time we went back, we saw him and he was smiling. And every time after that, he was like a totally different person.
Wow.
And it was almost like he just needed somebody to call him out.
Yeah.
And he didn't ever tell us, like the young lady did, what was really happening with him.
Right.
But it was almost a shift in him. It was do you remember that?
I don't.
It was a young guy.
Okay.
And we went back several times after that. And I don't know if he just remembered us.
Right.
It was just nice to us because we said something, or if we just kind of changed him. But it's just interesting, like you said, sometimes you never know what someone's going through. And it could just be that one thing.
Yeah.
Somebody to actually ask them. Maybe no one ever asked him, are you okay? What's wrong? And my sister is really good at that.
Mm-hmm.
She's so good at it. If we go anywhere and somebody is not pleasant, she actually says, what's going on with you today? You okay? You have to smile.
Right.
She does it all the time.
Yeah.
So,
But think about this, and that's so good, because what if you could bring joy to every situation, regardless of where you are in your own circumstances or situation?
Right.
But that takes, again, because I know you do a morning meditation, and that takes, again, you have to give yourself an opportunity to be filled with joy.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, the world fills you with whatever it wants to fill you with.
Wherever you go, you always have to go back to love. And if you go back in your heart and your mind to love, it'll always come back out. No matter what people are giving you and no matter how you feel, you just have to force yourself to go back to love.
That's not easy, though.
No, I don't even do it well all the time.
Right.
But that's what I always have to try to tell myself.
Right.
And you know how you say, wait, stop before you respond. People say that, stop, think about it before you respond.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if I'm responding, I don't have time to think about it. It's just coming out.
Right.
Right. And then later you're like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have come out like that. Or, oh, I wish I would have said this instead of this. But sometimes in a moment, like you said, how easy is that?
Yeah.
To just stop and think. It's kind of like that thing you used to do at school, stop, drop, and roll.
Right.
If it's a fire, you might be like, ah.
Right.
That might not be at the top of thought of your mind, right?
Yep.
So it's very difficult.
Yeah.
But do you have a suggestion for how to try to get to that place?
Yeah. So yeah, go ahead.
No, I don't know.
Yeah. So we're talking about, again, being careful, putting yourself in a place where you're assuming because someone is acting a certain way that we know everything about what they're going through. Because if we're not careful, we will react or respond based on what we think we know. But if we knew it all, perhaps we respond differently.
Yeah.
We would say, oh my gosh, I had no idea. Like I would have walked up to the young lady at the cashier and said, first of all, let me just say I'm sorry.
Right.
You know what I mean? For your loss.
Right.
If I had telepathy or if I could read minds, you know what I mean? I would have known before I walked up to say, hey, she was like, oh, thank you so much. But you don't know that.
But you don't know. And again, when we're talking about if two people are going through it, for you to walk up to her and say that because you can't read her mind and she can't read yours either. She can say, hey, I know it's been a tough week for you because you're going through something at work. And you would be like, oh, thanks for saying that.
Right.
But the two people have no idea what the other one's going through, what they're thinking.
Yeah. So you asked me for tips because we always give tips, guys. This is why you check us out, because I know you're like, okay, we talking about the problems, but
give us something.
I do that all the time. I'm in road rage all the time. I argue with people at restaurants all the time. I get mad people don't hold the door for me, walking out of restaurants, which has happened to us before. And I'm like, well, you can't even hold the door at the door. And you were like, well, maybe they're going through something. They weren't even thinking about you or talking to their child. They weren't thinking, it had nothing to do with you.
Wow.
So let's talk about a couple of solutions real quickly that's going to help you to say better things to yourself so that you will say better things to whoever you're having this interaction with. So one, I'm not going to do 7 this time. Because I know you were thinking it. I'm not
I
going to
was
do
just
7.
thinking, so about how many you're going to do?
I'll leave enough for you to say your and. How about that? So, number 1, always think the best and not the worst. So sometimes we think the worst. So we immediately think like, we immediately go to the worst scenario. Like, why would she do that? Why would he say that? Why I would never, and we go to the worst instead of the best.
Well, so what would the best be?
So the best would be, instead of saying, I can't believe, you would say, I'm really hoping that she has a better day today.
I'm really hoping that he's okay.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Right? So because you're assuming that the only reason they could be that upset and the only reason that they would be disrespectful in our eyes is because they're going through something that's causing them to be that way. Like, man, I wasn't raised like that. Maybe they were raised like that. I really hope they're able to overcome, being in that space. I'm really hoping that they get over what's ever causing them to act like that. Right? Because perhaps they're going through a personal relationship. They just lost a job, a personal breakup. They just lost a job. So a professional breakup, like all that, so many things could be happening.
Yeah.
Right? And it could be something really detrimental, like even more than that. You know what I mean? Like the death of someone, or a child was just in a car accident. Anything like that can really take you out. You're not even thinking about the person in front of you.
Yeah.
And they're taking it personally.
Yeah.
So I'm really, really hoping, I'm really prayerful. I'm really, I'm really wanting to see that this person is able to be better off than wherever they are right now. Because where they are right now, it's obvious that they're not in a good space.
Yeah.
See that? So you're looking for what's best, not for what's worse in that situation. And guys, if you can make this a habit, and I'm working, we all are human.
Absolutely.
So this self-talk, and this is a self-talk experience. So we've always talked about our own experience. That's why we come with all these stories. Every time something happens, like, oh, this is a great story for us to come on our podcast to say, hey, look, here's something else that is going to happen to you. You're going to encounter someone who's rude at a retail store, or someone who you feel like let the door slam in your face, or someone, right? And so we're asking that you think about what's best. Like, I can't believe you let the door shut. Instead of saying, man, I hope that they are able to deal with whatever they're dealing with in a better way today.
And the person could just be not nice. They could just not be a nice person, and that still has to be okay.
That's number 2.
It still has to be okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. So number 2 is that there are some people that are a certain way and it's completely out of your control. And by the way, more than likely, you may never have to interact with them again if it happened in public. So if you're walking out of a retail store, just think of any store you go to. Let's say Victoria's Secret.
Why did you say Victoria's Secret?
Because I know it's a store you go to.
But why is that top of your mind? Why didn't you say Target? I go to Target all the time.
I don't know why. I mean, it could be good. It could be, if you look at your wife and like, yeah, Victoria's Secret, that's a pop. Why were you thinking worse instead of what's best? You just went against the whole episode.
Okay.
You should be like, oh, well, you think about Victoria's Secret? Okay. You should be excited about that.
Did you buy me something? Okay, I'm sorry.
Can we edit that out? No.
It just threw me off. Okay.
Okay.
I'm back.
So let's say that, geez, you're walking out of Target and you can't even hold the door because their doors open by themselves typically. So it doesn't even go along with what I'm trying to say. But more than likely, if that person let the door go at Target, now people can't even imagine that, then you're not going to ever see that person again.
But what if it's the person that you're with?
Then you probably shouldn't be with that person.
Get back in the car with the person you actually came with.
Then you should probably have a conversation.
No, but that's true. That's a whole nother.
No, but it's like you could say, are you okay?
Right. But I'm saying that's a whole nother situation to deal with if it's someone that you're with all the time.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
That's a whole different tips, right?
Yeah. No, it is. It is. That's another episode, quite frankly. And we've talked about that a little bit. In terms of sometimes you have to give 80% because the person you're in a relationship can only give 20% at that time. But like what you brought up earlier is that what if both of you guys can only give 20% at that time?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
How does that
work? Tough, right? That's tough. So We'll have to ask Amari Hughes, who was on here before, talking about relationships, how that works.
Yeah, because that's good though.
Yeah.
Because if your spouse, both of you guys may be going through something different at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, how do you fare through that?
Yep. So call Amari and tell him we need him back on the episode.
Okay.
All right. So one, see the best.
Mm-hmm.
Do your best. Train your mind with self-talk that I'm going to see the best. So when it happens, because it will, see the best in the situation. And I love this because we always get comments with folks that say, oh my gosh, that happened to me. And I thought about what was best instead of what was worse because I almost went there. And that could be habitual. Whatever we do, by the way, is a habit. Mm-hmm. So we're used to triggering right away. It's like, I can't believe, because it's a habit. Right. And we can shift that and create different habits. That's the wonderful things. The wonderful thing about a habit is that it can be replaced.
It can be.
Yeah, it can be replaced. So that's the wonderful thing, is that we can respond differently, and then we get different results. You never know what relationship will come out of that, what door will open differently because you shifted that entire environment. Someone's like, you know what? No one asked me today how I was feeling and why I was acting like this. And thank you for noticing. Yeah. Because this isn't normally me.
Right.
And normally I am jipper. Normally I am, I bring a certain energy, and I know I have it over the last week. And it just could be a coworker, and I'm like, thank you for noticing.
Yeah.
Right. So it could save someone.
Yeah.
So know that we're gonna look for what's best. We're gonna realize that some folks are who they are, and we don't have any control over changing who they are. Mm-hmm. They have to decide to change themselves.
Yeah.
So don't oversteer this. And we're like, well, I'm going to try to save the world with this. And I'm going to say, something, I'm going to look for what's best in the world. And yeah, but it starts with one person at a time. And not everybody you have influence over. So you can't get them to change themselves. You can only inspire them to make a decision to change themselves.
That's good.
And again, the third thing is you might never see them again. So you don't have a chance to change them. Just don't let it mess up your whole day.
Yes.
Right. That's so this person you saw one time may not ever see again. You saw them at a resort. You saw them at the pool bar, and they said something rude. And now the rest of your vacation, you're like, I can't believe what happened at the pool bar. That was 3 days ago. 3 days into your vacation, you're still talking about that.
Yeah.
So don't allow things to ruin your experience, your life, your day.
Yeah.
Because of someone who, quite frankly, you don't know, may not ever see again in life.
That's good.
Thank you.
You helped me. You did.
Hey guys, we always pray that we add value based on our own experiences and things that we've had to shift in our own self-talk. And certainly road rage was one for me, because I used to react and respond to folks like, dude, the light just turned green. Why are you blowing the horn? But I learned how not to do that.
Yes.
And it took time to get there. So I pray that you can get there too. This has been another episode of Self-Talk. And remember, the things we say to ourselves about ourselves eventually determines what we attract and even who we attract for ourselves.
And always remember to lead with love.
See you guys.
Thank you for listening to the Self-Talk Podcast with Darnell and Tracy Self. We hope you enjoyed. Be sure to rate and review this podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform. And we'll see you next time. And remember, talk good to yourself.